Hey folks, Studio here. So today we have a replay from Rincent. Rincent being famous for Jungle Mundo, solo top Twitch, before they were cool. This is not going to be one of those. We're going to be looking at his Toppy. Toppy being Top Poppy, and one of the funniest nicknames in all of League of Legends. So we'll hop into that. We're going to focus on the team fights in Phase 2, and Phase 1, or Part 1, will be just general how he's doing in laning, how he's farming, general poppiness. So let's hop into that replay. Okay, so first things first, let's see who's playing who. We have Rincent on Poppy, Rispers on Shyvana, Joe on LeBlanc, 2Pro for You on Caitlyn, Mohriz better on Janna, Swift Break on Graves, Wilson is cool on Ahri, Mystic Wizard on Renekton, Propaganda Panday on Warwick, and Reap22 playing music for Sona, or on Sona, I guess. So this game starts out with the usual jungle shenanigans. That is something really weird, and I'll get into it some other point. But, you know, it starts very well for blue side. They're able to secure their golems on the AD carry and support bot lane, and they steal their enemy's red, and they have their own red warded. So right now, the enemy jungler cannot steal it safely. But Poppy missed 2 CS top. And top is a very scary place in solo queue. I played a lot of top myself. And you get into this mentality. And this is not a good tournament mentality. This is something that will lose you tournament games. But when you're playing top in solo queue, you are expecting to be on your own for the entire game. If your jungler or their jungler shows up, that's a huge wrench, but you don't know when it's going to happen. And you have to be ready just to win the lane entirely on your own. And this is scary with somebody like Poppy, who really doesn't have an answer for Renekton's early pressure. You can tell that Rincent was trying to play passively by looking at his skills. His first skill is W, Paragon of Demacia. He's going for that extra armor and damage just to last hit a little safer, and to have armor to take the extra damage. He knows any harass he does will just be negated by Renekton's Q, and as you see Renekton pressure, you'll notice Rincent can't really respond. Yeah, he actually gets his last hits interrupted, which was pretty good for Mystic Wizard. Now, Mystic Wizard has his own problem. He's not very good at CSing. It's 7 to 9 CS, which, you know, not a really big difference, but Mystic Wizard is pushed up to the tower and has a lot more creeps still alive. So Rincent's going to get more CS than him, even though he's been getting harassed and pushed in. So, the junglers in this game are Shyvana and Warwick. Shyvana and Warwick are not very aggressive early on. Shyvana actually with Exhaust can get some incredibly good ganks off with red buff, but she decided not to. And it makes some sense because Renekton's going to be hard to kill, and really if she can keep Warwick down, that would also be very effective. Unfortunately, this means Rincent's on his own. So his main focus is just going to be to stay alive and to start getting damage at around level 4 to maybe try and respond to the harass. And once he's at level 6, he can start doing major damage with his ult. But Mystic Wizard is not letting him get off that easy. And this is something important to do. When you're in the top lane and you have an advantage and you can harass, keep going at it. Just keep doing it. The scary part isn't the other guy responding. The scary part is the jungler responding. And right there, any jungle gank is going to be risky. Just because Rincent's so low, Mystic Wizard still has his flash, and he was able to E back in case somebody did show up right then and there. He goes for this flash kill, and this is actually not good for Mystic. It's really bad for Rincent, but he's going equal with Rincent right now. And Poppy is someone who's very strong later, compared to Renekton, who's very okay. They're actually kind of the same hero, except Mystic Wizard on Renekton has an early game. So let's talk about their roles actually. So you don't need to always win your lane by killing the opponent. This is a lane where this is not the case. I mean, right now Rincent's definitely getting beaten up a lot, but he has a bunch of HP 5, he has a Philistone, he's expecting to go to late game. He doesn't want to, you know, be in a situation where they're trying to do these big plays at level 7 because Mystic Wizard will just do more. But if Poppy gets to the late game on equal grounds as Mystic Wizard, then he's just going to be able to win the game. Poppy is considered a hyper carry by a lot of people, and her biggest issue is getting kited, but compare this to Renekton, whose biggest issue is getting kited, and his damage falls off and he gets weaker. So, I actually like this from Renekton. He acknowledges Shyvana, lets him know that he knows she's there. And Shyvana does not use this info properly. She walks straight to the jungle from where she was. Now, clearly, if Renekton knew he was there had to be a ward. So, there was a good chance that ward was just in that central area, and she got spotted going to red. And now she's getting super killed. Luckily for Vincent, Renekton did not get that red, or else he'd be pretty screwed right now. But Renekton's just going to keep up the pressure. He now has an assist. Shyvana did not really use that knowledge. And when I say that knowledge, you can kind of guess where wards are. The most obvious one is if you go to gank a lane and you see the enemy immediately back up and just get out of a bad position, they're probably they probably have a ward and see you coming. If it's another case, like let's say you're in lane and you see creeps attacking you from the bush when you haven't done anything to give them vision, then they probably have a ward down. But there are a lot of little tricks to give you information on whether someone has a ward down. Not quite as many as Dota, where, for example, if Nature's Prophet ult hits you at a weird spot, you know that you've been revealed, but little tricks can mean a big difference. And now Vincent is back. He has a chain vest. He wants to try and trade with Renekton. Poppy's damage is incredibly high, like I said before. So even though Renekton is up by 2 levels, he can apply some pressure. He just needs to make sure he doesn't get too low and he can take advantage of his incredibly high HP regeneration. I don't know if Poppy has high base regen, but with this, Vincent has both HP per 5 points, the defensive mastery for HP per 5, and he also has that Philistone to give him that sweet HP per 5 goodness. And this is really going to matter once Renekton stops just taking him down to half health with every combo, because as you can see here, Vincent and Mystic went relatively equal in that exchange. I mean, even with Renekton burning his ult, he doesn't have that much more health. So this is a scary moment for Renekton, and you gotta be able to respond properly in cases like this. Now, if you weren't Renekton, if you were someone who could farm and do a bit more with it, I'd say that is a time to do something else, to play passively. But Renekton isn't this character. And the fact that he's losing this exchange right now is huge. He does do some silly things. He does this little back and forth game. He doesn't need to do it. He should have just tried to get out. And he actually still goes for a kill in this case. The ignite goes down, and he tries to get in range to Q and let the tower kill her, but it doesn't work. This was Renekton being a bit too overzealous, not really accounting for the massive armor that Poppy currently has, working at 129 10 minutes into the game. And now Poppy pretty much has the lane. The fact that he won that exchange, got that kill, got that CS, got those levels, means Renekton can't do anything. And that is terrifying when you're playing an early game character like Renekton. Now, he actually does something really smart. He kills a tower and just immediately roams. And Vincent calls it. And that is just a smart thing to do. He's not going to keep banging his head against that Poppy. He's not going to try and break down a wall that he's not going to break down unless he gets incredibly lucky or Vincent lags out. So he roams and he comes to kill this LeBlanc. So if you're in a position where you're someone like Renekton, where you need this early game dominance but you just can't get it, and you're just in a bad position, go somewhere else. Try to make some action happen. If you're someone who can't gank, then you're in a bigger problem. But Renekton, AP Tristana, like all of these little early game characters that, if they start losing their lane, are in a bad spot, can usually go around the map and do something. AP Janna, for example. If you cannot lane as AP Janna, go get a tornado down somewhere to send your bird on somebody. Now, of course, the big problem is these characters that are good really early are very, very time sensitive. So if you don't make these plays happen, or if you mess up and the plays backfire, you're gonna be kind of screwed. So right now, Vincent's passively farming, and I like this. There are so many ways to gank him just by going through the enemy brush, but it only leads to 2 possible spots right now. Both of them are by Rincent. One is that Tribush, the other is the route by the tower. So he doesn't want to really push up, but he doesn't want to freeze the lane by the tower either, just because he wants to be able to respond to the enemies pressuring a different lane. So farming passively and safely can be a good thing, especially for somebody like Rincent here who is playing Poppy. But you want to be able to respond to any pressure. So if he notices that there are 5 people bottom, he should not keep farming and trying to keep the lane where it is. He needs to get to that enemy tower and to start doing work as fast as he can. If he doesn't, then the enemy can get objectives and he can get a lot of gold and be very safe, but it doesn't matter if your team is dead. So right now we have 4 bottom, and he immediately changes up how he last hits. He's using his Q now, he's being faster about it. And unfortunately for him, his team decides that they just really want to die or something, because they go into a 2v4. Now, it doesn't matter what elo you're at. If there are 2 of you and 4 of them, and you're all at about the same strength, you are probably going to lose as the 2. But as you can see right here, he's gone from this passive last hitting to just pressure, pressure, pressure. And he's going to get the tower, and unfortunately he lost 2 towers for it. The good news is Dragon is down, and he's going to be able to go ahead and spend his 2,000 gold to go back and be ready for this fight. Now, the fun part is going to be seeing Poppy in action. Rincent's Poppy is very, very special in how he plays, because he's very, very aggressive. And he tries to alleviate some of her big problems. For example, she's very, very, very kiteable. And you can see he has boots 3. He knows once he's slowed, he's screwed. And he's going to be ulting people, so when that ult's on, only one person can slow him. So he goes boots 3, and just to have that extra chasing power. So I had this labeled on my notes as Rincent no, and he just cannot get to Ahri. This is Poppy's big problem. Not that she doesn't do enough damage, not that she doesn't survive for long enough. She has trouble sticking on targets if they start getting too mobile. And unfortunately for Rincent, that Ahri is rushing a Rylai's, which will actually be his bane for quite a while. So he chases, he dives, and he gets into the entire enemy team. Which is actually really bad because his team chased too. And now they are just getting, not murdered, but just slowly picked off. They could be all dead by now. And LeBlanc going down is bad, but it could be a lot worse. And this is just I really like this chase. It shows the strength of just mobility and movement in this game. Even though, there were 5 people up with good CCs like Ahri and Renekton, everybody was still able to more or less get away. I mean, Caitlyn gets caught here, but she takes 2 people down for it. I would not really call that getting caught as much as just deciding to take that trade. Unfortunately, Graves survives. Now right here, there are 2 people down for purple side, 1 person down for blue side. Everybody on purple side has no mana, and they don't have a whole lot of HP either. So this is a great time to take Dragon. Also to kill Sona because you're Poppy and you can just do that without any problems, especially if you get a Phage proc. So one of the best ways to respond to an enemy getting advantage is to punish them on their retreat. So you'll hear this happen quite a bit, especially in tournament matches or ranked 5s, where one team will say counter Baron. In this case, this was a counter Dragon. The enemy team was just so low that they were able to get Dragon. Now, unfortunately here, this turned into a dumb chase sequence, and I also have this label as Rincent no. He's not able to get to Ahri. Ahri has that Rylai's, and Poppy problems. You cannot stick to people as Poppy if they're able to keep fighting you, and it just sucks. And it's bad. It's not a bad play on Rincent's part. It's just unfortunate that they're able to keep this mobility up. So this is actually really, really bad for blue team. They've lost a whopping 4 towers by the 21-minute mark. They do have Dragon, but they don't have any real map control right now. If you look at the wards on the map, they've got 2 wards. That's enough to cover a good chunk of bot lane. And unfortunately, those 2 wards are actually right next to each other. So they have like no map presence, and they're scared. Well, Rinsen isn't scared, but Rinsen's playing Poppy, so. But what do you do as blue team? Well, if you're Rinsen, you keep farming, and if you're the rest of blue side, you actually just want to keep up this farm. So Caitlyn is kind of reaching a point in her game where she's kind of weak compared to Graves. Graves has this massive AoE, this highly damaging auto attack. Caitlyn wants to reach a point where her auto attack is so amazing that even though she doesn't have as many damaging skills as Graves, she can apply a lot of damage. Janna is going to always be able to keep out Renekton and Warwick from Caitlyn. And Poppy getting farm is the scariest thing in the game. So once again, they go for some more pressure. Now, this is a cool move. I like this, because if you're Ahri, you're thinking he's going to go for me. If you're Reap, you're thinking he's going to go for Ahri. If you're Vincent, you're killing that support. That Sona just has nothing to respond to, no way to get out from that charge. And it's very unexpected, because you expect people to go for that close target. But he decides not to. Now, Riley's coming into play again. Vincent, currently at 460 movement speed, is about to start chasing. Is brought down to 400 by red buff. A heart hits him in the face. 233. And a fantastic flash from Ahri actually gets Grave to block that bullet. So it was an awesome exchange with an early Sona Oracle's kill. He's getting progressively worse and worse as Vincent dies and the rest of his team dies, just because they've expended a lot of their skills, and now they can't stay away from the scary DPS, and they can't really win a fight. That Renekton is very, very tanky. He doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but he does enough because the squishies are squishy. Actually, an incredibly squishy team from blue side. They don't have anyone to really take damage except Shyvana, because Poppy's not going to take any damage, and everybody else does not build any HP. So right there, Warwick and Renekton can go for a very silly dive, but Graves is able to clean this up in the end. That is just the power of Graves right there. He has this really strong Q, and if you're someone like that Caitlyn next to him, you're going to take a lot of damage. Luckily, LeBlanc cleans up Graves. Graves already cleans up LeBlanc. It's just an incredibly silly exchange. Whereas people are coming back, they're just, you know, joining the fray and getting killed. Alright. So, right now, Rinsen's team is doing very, very okay. Let's see how this gets resolved in part 2. In the studio saying, I'll see you there.